Thought Bubble Audio.
Look, up in the sky!
You will never find the more wretched hive of scum and villainy.
Welcome to Beer with Geeks with Tim and Frank.
Who are you?
I'm Batman.
I am Iron Man.
Your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
Hi, Christopher. I'm Nero.
My name is Inigo Montoya.
You're a wizard, Harry.
A couple of guys with a couple of beers and a whole lot of pop culture nostalgia.
Make it so, number one.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Beatles.
I named the dog Indiana.
Life finds a way.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Now sit back and crack open a cold one, because it's time for Beer with Geeks.
It comes in paints.
Shaken, not stirred.
Great Scott!
I was way off. I knew it started with an S, though.
Hi, and welcome to Beer with Geeks, where two geeks geek out with beer. I'm Tim, and with me, as always, is my man who actually really does love sand. It's Frank. How are you today?
Yeah, sure. I'm down with sand. That's cool. I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing great, baby. I'm doing great. How you doing? Doing good.
As Joey
doing
Tribbiani
good.
said, how you doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm doing quite well, Frank. It's been a time. Truthfully, I mean, if we want to actually peel behind the curtain a little bit, my back really hurts.
Yeah.
I did something to it,
Oh.
and I just it's been really, really annoying. And obviously, we had a nor'easter up here.
Yes.
And so it's not like I can get to the chiropractor in the middle of a storm. So
Sure.
yeah. So I'm actually just Dune right now.
Okay.
Okay. But it's okay. I got my pillow behind me, and I'll take my ibuprofen. When we're done, and I'll be fine.
All right. Fair enough. Well, I hope you feel better soon.
Thank
what
you.
about
Ooh,
what?
Actually,
what about
I just
what you're-
readjusted the pillow, and I feel great right now.
Okay.
Oh man.
Then while you're
That's
feeling
just
great,
what I needed. Wow.
Fantastic. I'm so glad to hear that. And while you're feeling great, why don't you tell me what you're drinking?
I am drinking nothing special. I'm actually just drinking an Omission Lager because some of the beer that is in my fridge, it's either fruity or really heavy. I just needed a beer.
Yep.
And so I'm drinking the Omission, and I mean it's good. I like it. So keeps me alive. I don't know. It keeps me something.
Yeah. Okay.
It's good.
Yes.
Keeps me gluten free is what it does.
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Valid. Yeah. I will say I'm not drinking this tonight, but I have been leaning into the lighter beers a little bit more recently, where I'll keep more. I love my craft beers, but I'll keep a 6-pack of like PBR or Corona or something like that around, where I never really used to do that before. I was always all in on the craft stuff. And I was like, well, why would I drink, beer that's not as good when I can drink great beer? But I used to be much more snobby about it. But now I'm sort of like, sometimes I just want something that's a little bit lighter, that's still enjoyable. And yeah, so I've been doing that a bit as well as keeping those around in rotation. But tonight, I am drinking. I'm back on the Belgians, the grand tour of Belgian beers that I picked up on one of my recent trips to Canada, and I am drinking a Maudite Double Ale that appears to have some kind of. The label has what looks to be a devil and some men rowing a boat. I'm sure there is a story that goes with that, but I do not have time for that today. So, Maudite Double Ale, a lovely Belgian ale, delicious, complex. It's got kind of a fruity flavor to it, the way you would expect like a triple or a quad, but it's only a double. Yep. And yet it has that same flavor.
Oh, that sounds delightful. Belgians are the best. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, everybody else every other kind of beer.
Yep.
But this is my line in the sand.
Yeah.
The Dune.
The
Dune
best.
sand.
Oh, nice. Nice. Yeah, the best beer comes from Belgium. I definitely feel that way. And yes, it is a line in the dune-covered sand. Let's talk about Denis Villeneuve's latest outing. Did I say that right? You're more French than I am.
You did.
Okay.
You did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Je m'appelle Joey.
Toute la fruit.
Toute la fruit.
Yeah, Dune, the latest adaptation of Frank Herbert's famous novel. Tim, what is your exposure to Dune before this film?
I read the book because I'm a good nerd that way. Truthfully, I liked the book. I did not love the book. I found it overwrought. Not the right word. I found it. It tells 2.5 different stories in one book, even though it's supposed to be all about one character. It's all about Paul. And so I found I found the shift in the storytelling kind of odd when I was reading it. And like a good sci-fi, it does not stop to explain things to you, which I appreciate. Like when you are into it and you want to go back and you want to dive more into everything. And I listened to the book and not and I didn't read it, and I think that did hamper my enjoyment of it because I was like, it's moving along, and you know how it is. Like if you space out for 30 seconds, like you're done. Like and and it's long, but every sentence matters in Dune, and so by the end I liked it. I didn't love it. I love a good messianic tale. I like a good fantasy that thinks it's sci-fi because that's what Dune really is. I think it's one of those like, oh, it's science fiction because there are ships, and you're like, but it's actually like a hero's quest and there's magic kind of. So it's actually really science fiction in space. And so that's my exposure. I've never seen the David Lynch film because I've heard it is one. It misinterprets Dune quite a bit, and how, like the point Frank Herbert was trying to make about messianic figures in stories, and so where they just kind of go all in on it, and so I've never really bothered to watch the movie. I wasn't interested before. After reading the book, and I knew it was different. Like I liked it enough to be like, I'm invested in a good adaptation of this book.
Okay. Yeah.
And so I've never watched it. So yeah, that was my exposure before watching this movie. What is your exposure to Dune?
None, zero, zilch, zip, nada. Never read the book.
Okay, what is that? Okay.
Never read the book. Never saw the
never read
David
the
Lynch
book.
Never saw the David Lynch. Yeah, I never saw the miniseries. Never seen anything. Barely knew what it was about. And knowing that there was a new adaptation coming, I tried. My new thing is to sort of keep myself as pure as possible going into a first viewing of a new movie. That's been a thing I've been doing for a few months now. Not strictly, but a thing I've been enjoying doing. I find I enjoy movies more that way as of late. So I just decided, you know what? I'm not going to find out what it's really about. I'm not going to do a deep, I'm not going to read the Wikipedia and get the deep dive. I'm just going to go in as clean as I can and enjoy it, on its own merits. Like, what is this film saying and trying to do? So that's how I went in, completely blank slate. Having read the book, and at least somewhat enjoyed it. At least enjoyed. It sounds like you enjoyed what he was going for.
I enjoyed it. Like it gets a 4 out of 5 stars. Like I don't want to say
that helps.
It wasn't
helps.
like it's not like 2.5. Yeah, it's fine. No, I liked it a lot. I just didn't like. I didn't love it. Like I couldn't wait to read the sequel. Like
but
it wasn't
4 out
like
of 5
that.
is a good review. How many?
Yes, it's a great review.
Yeah, absolutely. What about this film?
5 out of 5.
5 out of 5. Okay.
5 out of 5, maybe 4.5 out of 5. But if you really press me, but I think that the film elevated the book for me. It put some things in perspective that I needed, and so I just loved the film. It's incomplete. So whereas like the whereas
you mean
my
even for being a part one?
Yeah. No, maybe not for being a part one. If you know that it's a part one,
sure.
But I mean, it says Dune Part 1,
Yeah.
like right in the title sequence. And so it wasn't like when I was in high school and I saw Fellowship of the Ring and I had no idea that was just going to end, like where it is a cliffhanger ending, and you're like, where's the rest of it? It wasn't like that. I knew that it was going to cut off at some point, because where this movie ends is basically where the story shifts in the next part of the book.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so we watched maybe half of Dune, I would say, something like that, because there's Dune, the book, is split into 3 parts, and the first part is the longest, and then the second part's the second longest, and the third is rather short. But we watched the first half of the book. But yeah, I loved it. What did you? I watched it at home. I watched it on HBO Max.
I did too.
And I watched it over. Oh, you didn't go to the drive-in.
We had plans to go to the drive-in, but we had driven 5 hours. It's a whole long thing, but we went to a wedding when we were late. We were like, oh, when we get there before, the night before the wedding, we'll go to a drive-in and see Dune. We were too tired after driving through New York and Boston traffic, so we didn't end up doing that. So I can
understand that. You don't want to drive 5 hours in the car just to go sit in the car more.
Yeah, like we were too tired for a 3-hour movie at that point. So
yeah, all right, I can understand that. Can you just don't cut this at all? But can you riff, because I'm watching you drink your beer and I'm like, I want another beer.
Well, you go
because
get another
I finished
beer.
mine. So
Okay,
I'm
go for
get
it.
another one. I never do this.
You never do.
Right there.
Neither
so
of us
do it
ever,
right now.
ever really does this. Wow. I have so much power right now because I am editing this and Tim's not around to hear what I'm gonna say. Like, he may not even hear this when it airs. So whatever I say now is just between us. Oh, hi Tim. Hi. He's back. And anyway, that's Chaos Theory.
I can't wait to know what you're actually talking about, because all I got was that's Chaos Theory.
Oh, what a shame.
Which is perfect.
Oh, yeah.
Perfect.
Huh.
Anyway, yeah. So you watched it at home. Did you watch it in one sitting, or did you watch it over multiple sittings like me, a new father?
I watched it in one day, but not in one solid sitting.
Okay.
But I did watch it in one, in maybe it took me over the course of 4 or 5 hours. I watched it. So pretty close together, but I had to pause a couple times.
Yeah, I watched it with my wife, who is not super into science fiction, but loves fantasy. And so we watched I showed her the trailer, whatever else, and she was like, yeah, that looks interesting enough. Like, I'll watch that. And we were about 40 minutes in on the first round of watching, and it was Friday night, and I was like, I just can't. I'm so tired. It's 7:05 in the evening. I just can't live anymore. No, it was like past 9 o'clock, and I was falling asleep. It was a long work week, blah blah blah. And so we stopped, and I said, like, I'm falling asleep, and not because I'm bored. I just, like, I can't keep my eyes open. Are you good to stop? Like, do you care enough? And she was like, oh no, let's keep going.
Oh wow.
Like, and so, like, I was like, okay, this is good. This is not this is actually not what I was expecting. So yeah, I loved it. I think it did the first part. I think it did the first part of the book justice, but even the book is leaving the book out of it. I think it doesn't bother to explain things to you. It's a smart science fiction film. It's not like, oh, we have to go here. Why? Oh, what's this? Oh, I have to explain this to you now, and blah, blah, blah. And basically the whole movie's exposition. But to me, it doesn't feel like exposition. It feels like character work masquerading as exposition. And, like, because they, like, if you don't know what the Bene Gesserit are, tough.
Too bad.
You'll figure it out. Context clues. They look like nuns. Close enough. Deal with it. And I appreciated that about the movie. But because I had read it, I knew who they were, so it wasn't confusing to me. What's your experience? Like, you didn't know anything, so
I didn't know anything, and actually, what you're touching on there, that it didn't go out of its way to explain stuff. I don't do well with that, and admittedly, that's me. And I felt okay, so I gave it more of like a 3 out of 5 in terms of my enjoyment level, not in terms of the technical achievement. I think that from a cinematography standpoint and a costuming standpoint, holy moly, masterpiece! Like, give them all the Oscars for cinematography, for costumes, for lighting, for visual effects,
even
visual effects. The freaking
effects,
sandworm, like oh my god, like amazing!
Yeah.
All those things.
Even the stuff that you think is CG but is real and not. It's like
Absolutely.
a really great blend of CG and practical effects.
Totally.
Mm-hmm.
I think what I took, what I found not to be my thing, might be more a function of Villeneuve's style of storytelling. Like, having seen Arrival, having seen Blade Runner 2049, he likes the slower paced. Let's zoom in on the point of view character, and they're not gonna say much, but they're gonna facial reactions and like them walking for 5 minutes in the desert or whatever, like you will derive from that what they're feeling and what they're going through. And that doesn't really jive with me. And I sometimes feel I'm not smart enough to pick up what they're putting down, what he's putting down. And that might be the case, frankly. But I feel like those are not movies that are for me because I don't feel like I'm getting the world being built around. Like, I wanted to know so much about this sort of pseudo-feudal system that they were living in, and this emperor and the barons and the dukes and I was able to piece together a little bit of what's happening on Arrakis with there's the Stellan Skarsgård, fat bastard character, who is wants to keep the Atreides away, and he wants to keep being like, I gathered that stuff, but like not till almost the end of the movie did I really piece together, oh, okay, there are these people who are being oppressed, who live on this desert planet and know how to live on this desert planet, and now Paul and his mother are going to become one of them, become part of them, and learn to live in, like, I got there eventually, but it took me most of the movie to get there. And that might be me. Like, I'm saying this on a podcast publicly, actually, much to my embarrassment, that maybe I'm just a little slow on the uptake for Denis Villeneuve's style of storytelling. But that I felt for most of the film, like I was like waiting for another shoe to drop, and then it ended. And I was like, okay, I get that, like, he fought the other guy, and so now he's part of the clan or whatever. Like, I get that. And I see that there is an allegory for, the spice being sort of an allegory for the way that we zap the resources of our own planet. And I see an allegory for, power dynamics and oppression and colonialism, in the way that the Baron and the Duke were fighting over, who was going to control this third group of people that neither of them belongs to. But I just felt like it was the onus was on me to figure it out, rather than here is the story, or like here is the world being built. And I wanted more of that stuff.
I guess now that's totally fair, because it's either you like that style or you don't. Exactly. I love that,
and so I'm not saying it's a bad movie. I'm not saying it's a bad way to tell stories. It's just not the way I like, not the kinds of stories that I like.
That is fine. I think you are probably in the regular majority of people that like you don't want to. It's weird, but you don't want to think too hard. Like, it's like, so it's not sometimes you don't want to think, but like, it's not like you need everything like laid out for you, but sometimes like you just need to unwind. And I would not call Dune an unwinding experience.
It's not,
but I love like 5 minutes of walking in the desert, and you're like, and I have to extrapolate meaning from that. Perfect. I'm there. I'm totally there for that. But that's what I do. It's what I teach. Like, you know, right? So like this Dune is it would be a great teaching tool. Because of a lot of what you said, there's a lot of, it's not totally allegorical, but it is definitely metaphor. There's a lot of metaphors.
Maybe metaphorical is a better way of putting it. Yeah.
Because allegorical applies one meaning, and there's only one meaning. But I completely just lost my train of thought. But anyway, so whatever you picked up on Dune, like you picked on the colonialism and all, you know, like that stuff, and the environmentalism, and that's all correct. That's all present in the story. You said like you were too slow to figure out, like waiting for the other shoe to drop and everything. I read the book and I had the same feeling. So don't hurt yourself. Like, cause I had to like remember like who everyone was and their point, but I think that's intentional. Like he wants you to wait because you know something's not right. So like you're waiting for something to happen, because like the Baron says, when is a gift not a gift? And so you're basically left with that riddle through the course of the movie until they reveal the answer. Gift's not a gift when it's a setup. Like that's the answer. But you don't, spoilers for Dune. You know, when like you know that the Emperor is jealous of the popularity of House Atreides. And because they are not great people, they're just better people than the Harkonnens. Because like you could be like, oh, you know, obviously he loves his son and he cares about equality and blah, blah, blah. Still, fact of the matter is, he's still put in charge of a planet that's not his, right? And so this is, you know, I don't know, like Jamestown, basically. Like, you know, like, and
maybe
you know, they didn't treat him well, but now it's your turn.
Maybe some dukes under the feudal system in, you know, medieval England were kind-hearted people, but they were still part of a system that like took advantage of people, right? And that's still what the House Atreides is doing. Like maybe they're better than the others, but they're still part of a messed up system.
It's really more like the Roman Empire than even England, because it's really like, okay, so here's Rome, but guess what? The empire is going to be much bigger than just Rome.
Sure.
So you go to the Middle East, you go to Asia Minor, you go here, you go here, you're here, you're here. Or I mean, if you do want to say that it's the English, it's India. Like they're basically fighting over India.
Yes.
Like, and that's or the Middle East, which is obviously a lot of what is
yes.
You know, a lot of the names, the atmosphere is what they're pulling from is Middle Eastern, and so they like wanting to work with them is one thing, but like the good thing to do would be like, this is yours, not ours, so you can have it now. And so, but the whole point of like the point of the story is like the fall of the House of Atreides is that Paul, who's left, is like, all right, so let's be better, you know, let's be better than this. There's a bit of white savior story in here.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and this is where Dune gets misinterpreted, where he's like, he's not looking to be a savior. That's where the misinterpretation comes from. Like they put that on him. He doesn't do it for them. They don't come Paul doesn't know he's the chosen one. He doesn't know any of this stuff. But they place that importance on him instead of him placing it on himself. And so it's kind of like trying to think of an equivalent. It's almost like To Kill a Mockingbird in the way that it's like, you know, Atticus doesn't jump up and down and be like, I will save the day.
Yes.
It's more like, you came to me and I will do my best for you. It's like that. It's more like that.
He's been placed in this position, and now he's going to do the best he can in that position.
Correct. Yeah, correct.
In the film, it seemed more like he sort of knows, or at least he knows that they think he is. So he's not taking advantage. That sounds wrong, but like more like, okay, I'll go with that.
I felt it was fairly ambiguous, like that he doesn't really have a clue as to what's going on. He just knows that he's supposed to do some things because of, prophecy or, the dreams that he has. But the dreams are only partial futures or possible futures, right? Because there's like the guy he kills is like in one of his visions is this like, okay, is his friend and who will like teach him stuff. But he ends up teaching him like a different kind of desert power in real life than what is in his vision. And so there's possibility without fate. And I like that's important. That's again, this is what I like about Dune is that there's a lot of open-ended discussion that can happen. It doesn't have to be one way.
Yeah, that's interesting. I hadn't so that helps actually too, because I was a little confused about the dreams and how it seemed like some of it. I was confused about people being alive who shouldn't be alive anymore in a dream. But yeah, I thought they were more prophetic maybe than they actually are. But it sounds like they're possible futures. I will say, I thought that Josh Brolin and Jason Momoa were like my favorites. Like Duncan Idaho. I would watch a Duncan Idaho movie with Jason Momoa.
He is the most likable character in the book too.
Okay, because that's how it came across in the movie.
Yeah, his casting is perfect because everybody's serious except for Duncan Idaho, who is serious, but he also understands the like who he is, the idea of the importance of levity and like familial love instead of like buttoned up love or whatever else. So, Jason Momoa was great casting. That was wonderful. And yeah, and Brolin's always good.
Yeah.
I honestly, I don't think there wasn't really a weak link for me in any of the cast. I found anytime anybody was on screen, they were engaging.
Yeah, I agree.
And I don't always feel that way about Timothée Chalamet. Quite truthfully.
Same.
He's hit or miss for me.
Same. Agreed. I thought he was okay in Little Women.
I think he's great in Little Women. I find that I like him more the older he gets. Like he just gets maybe because he's aging, he's getting better. Although the first thing I ever saw him in was Lady Bird, and he is great in it because I hated him, and I think that's just like has stuck with me. It's not his performance; it's that
he's good at playing like a little turd. He's good at that. Like he can do that really well. I liked him. I liked him in this. Like I said, I wish that there was more. It felt like there was a lot of large scale stuff in this movie, and I wish there was a little bit more of the world building and explaining what that's all about, instead of just sort of showing it to you almost in passing, like seeing it but without contextualizing it. Whereas I feel like a Harry Potter or a Star Wars gives you like
I will fight you on that. Harry Potter, yes. Star Wars, absolutely not.
No, well, I will say like Luke or Harry Potter are the point of view character who are being introduced to some aspect of the world they already live in, right? So you have for the sake of the audience, certain things are being. This was your father's lightsaber, or Harry learning all the wizarding stuff because he's been in a Muggle his whole life. Like that stuff, it brings you in. Even at the beginning of the first movie of each of those franchises, because you're learning what the world is about with the point of view character. Paul in this film didn't really provide that, and it wasn't designed to, right? So I am. This is a comparison of apples and oranges, and I guess I'm saying I wish this was an orange, but like I wish that there was some of that.
I think it's a fine comparison, because I think that there is some of that, because like he get like everything he learns about everything the audience learns about the Fremen is because Paul also learns it.
Sure.
He learns it from the from the videos he watches. He learns it from so that, like, I guess the thing is, like, the stuff he knows, like, is not explained.
That's
like
it.
He's like stuff involving his house or the Bene Gesserit or whatever, because he knows some of those things already. That's not explained.
Yes.
Anything about Arrakis has to be explained to him because he doesn't know anything. But to me, the Star Wars example, like, Luke knows about Tatooine. He knows about moisture evaporators and Jawas and droids, and, like, none of that's ever explained. Like, it's all just there for you. And I'm thinking more on, like, the Death Star scenes where, like, the Emperor has dissolved the Senate and blah, blah, all that stuff. I don't know why Obi-Wan's there. Should have been Grand Moff Tarkin. So, but, like, none of that's ever explained. The first Star Wars doesn't care if you get it or not. Like, it just doesn't. Like, and I agree that Luke gets explained stuff, and there's more of that than in Dune. Dune's definitely, like, pay attention in Star Wars. It's like, you'll get it. Yeah.
In Dune, I feel like, though, in Star Wars, if you watch the movie enough, you'll pick up on, oh, wait, he just said something about a Senate. Oh, wait, he just said something about, you know, those things are there. Sure. But they're subtle.
You don't...
and on repeat
but you
watching,
don't think that if you watch
up.
Dune again, you'll get stuff, though?
I'm saying some of these things don't feel like they were, I feel like they were not in the movie at all. And they were either they were not considered to be important enough to need to be explained, or, like, you'll get it, or if you've read the book, you'll get it. But I felt like there were certain things that's where I feel like, was I just not smart enough to understand some things? Because some things went, like, some things about how the system of this world works kind of went over my head in a way that I'm like, I guess I'll just stick with it, and maybe later in the movie it'll make sense. And some of it just didn't ever click for me.
Yeah, I think that's,
and might
truthfully,
be me.
I think that you're trying to compare. I think with Star, I think, like, you know Star Wars so well, you've almost forgotten what it's like to not know how Star Wars, the world of Star Wars, and so I think that stuff is there in the movie. Like, I read Dune a couple years ago, so apart from some really broad strokes, I didn't remember much. Like, I remembered that, like, the Duke dies, and that Duncan Idaho dies, and that, like, he and Paul is the chosen one for the Fremen. Apart from that, I didn't remember anything. I didn't remember character names. I didn't remember like the importance of, like, Chris knives or visions or anything. Like, none of that registered with me. So I think that Dune begs for a rewatch because that information is there.
Okay.
But it is it's not super present, which I can see how you would say that's a fault of the film. You know, for you, like, not necessarily for the movie itself, but just for your particular style. Which goes back to my original point that Dune is a fantasy masquerading as science fiction, and I think that you're not totally up on it because it's really fantasy in space.
I think
just
you're
like Star Wars is fantasy in space, but you kind of, maybe because you grew up with it, you can, like, ignore that.
It might be, yeah. I wish Zendaya was in this movie, though. That would have been cool.
She's very important in the second half of the book.
I figured, yeah. I figured. That's the other thing. I feel like it was almost designed to. I feel like I will be careful with my wording. I feel like I might have enjoyed part one better if I had watched it with part two. Like, if I had watched a 6-hour, 2 movies back to back, mini series version of this, maybe I would have understood / appreciated this first half more, because I feel like maybe a lot of the things that I'm unclear on would have been resolved in the second half. And the ending, as much as I agree with, I felt like the pacing of the ending, and I understand what you were saying, that, like, that was a natural breaking point. I can see how that's a natural breaking point in the story, because, like, now Lady Jessica and Paul are with the Fremen, and it's sort of like the next part of the adventure, moves on from here. I see where that's a natural breaking point in the story. Absolutely makes sense. If I was going to cut it in half, that's probably where I would do it too. But so that kept me, but it did feel sort of like it sort of it was a slow build and then a lot of action and then it was just suddenly over. And that's why I feel like I would enjoy it more if I was watching parts 1 and 2 back to back. And the Zendaya stuff would be part of that too, right? So
I completely agree, but I thought you didn't pay attention to the marketing, Frank. So why do you care if Zendaya was in it or not in it so much?
It's even just watching the movie itself. Like they kept teasing, like she's going to be important. She's going to be important. Look, he's having another vision with her. Look, he's having another vision with her. And then it was like, and now she's finally here. The end.
Yep, I can get behind all of that. I mean, you're not a Lord of the Rings fan, but if you were, there's a part of me that feels like if you split if you split Fellowship of the Ring up, it's almost like they get to Rivendell and they have a meeting with elves and dwarves and hobbits and men, and you're like, oh my God, it's happening. The Fellowship is forming.
You could end it there, yeah. What if you split the Hobbit into 3 parts? Never mind.
I think I think it works personally, but whatever. I'm a very, very small minority of people who like the Hobbit films, so it's okay. I'm the wrong person to get on.
I know. I'm just trying to get a rise out of you.
Yeah,
I'm just teasing. I think
that's what I know. But don't tease me about other things because you won't get it from the Hobbit.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, talk about Spider-Man 3 if you want to get a rise out of it.
I do want to talk about Spider-Man 3 versus Amazing Spider-Man 2 after our recent conversation on Supergirl TV Talk. I will still watch part 2 because I want to see if that will make me enjoy this more, enjoy part 1 more. Because I suspect there is, as much as I'm not a fantasy guy, and this is more fantasy than I usually go for, there is still stuff here that I find intriguing and interesting. The metaphorical stuff I mentioned earlier, the visuals I just find absolutely stunning. And I was interested enough to see what were the things in here that influenced Star Wars and influenced other things that I love. And I saw a lot of it, so
there's tons. Yeah.
Tons.
Yeah. Even, the government structure with one emperor for the galaxy, the universe in this case, spice, spice as a drug. Actually, there are 2 suns on Arrakis. I don't know if you caught that.
I did.
So, I thought it was to make it not look like Dune was copying Star Wars, which would have been hilarious. I thought that was done really well, where it's like it could be 2 suns or it could be more it could.
I would give them
tricking you.
They probably deserve more credit than we realize for the amount of work they did to not make it look too much like Star Wars. It probably took a lot of effort to not make it look like Star Wars because Star Wars looks like this.
Star Wars, there's a lot. Star Wars is. People talk about Star Wars as Flash Gordon and stuff all the time. There's so much Dune in Star Wars,
and I didn't know there's the sandworms. I mean, come on, that's
yep.
the Sarlacc pit,
yeah, desert planet, sandworms, 2 suns, spice, the chosen one,
the Emperor,
the Emperor,
weird swords,
Chris Knives, kinda, yeah. Duncan Idaho is basically Han Solo. It's that same type of hey, blah, 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 that buddy, it's more like Lando, really, than it's like a mixture of Han and Lando together.
Yeah.
But there's actually an original Star Wars, the Star Wars. If you read that, it's so Dune.
Yeah.
It's a lot of Dune in there.
It's almost like he wrote the Star Wars and they were like, too much Dune, tone it down, and then he came up with
tone the Dune down. Dune it down.
Dune. What are you doing, George?
I'm a little surprised that you didn't like it more. And we keep talking about Dune as it's really more fantasy, and it's not. I mean, it's obviously science fiction. There's not tons of fantasy aspects in it, but the idea of visions, quests, chosen one, those are more closely associated with fantasy than they are with sci-fi, and that's kind of the stuff that you don't love about this the fantasy, but you love Star Wars and Anakin's the chosen one. Maybe it's Luke, maybe it's Rey, probably not Rey.
And those are not the things that I had problems with at all with Dune, because I was accustomed to them from Star Wars. Chosen One,
Right, okay.
like that stuff was not a problem for me at all in this movie. It was more I wanted to know more about the things that brought them about, that brought about being the Chosen One, brought about his quest, brought about. I wanted a little bit more understanding so I could put in context what a big deal it was that, like, the betrayal of the Atreides. Like, I wanted to understand that, you know, like. Mm-hmm. You don't need to understand anything about Alderaan to know that blowing up an entire planet is an atrocity. But I kind of need to know, you know, I feel like I needed to know, you know, Oscar Isaac's backstory to understand how we got here and how a gift not being a gift is a big deal. Like, I feel like some of that was sort of like, I feel like that's a bigger deal than I understand, but okay, I guess I'll go with it.
Mm-hmm. I think it almost reminds me of watching The Force Awakens when you're like 30 years later, what happened? Tell me all the information. And then you finish the movie and you're like, I don't know anything. You didn't explain a single damn thing to me that I wanted to know. But I still enjoyed myself. Okay.
That's fair.
You know,
that's fair. And that's why I say I may have gotten hung up on those things. It may just be my experience. But anyway, I think it is from a you know, the most objective
technical
achievement standpoint, like, outstanding. And I really like his visual language and his what did you think of the score? The Hans Zimmer score. You love your Zimmer.
I do. I don't love modern day Zimmer, truthfully. Like, I liked a lot of what he was playing with. He was very it was very Lawrence of Arabia, you know, sounds of the desert. You know, that's people have been using Lawrence's score to, you know, like actually Lawrence of Arabia wrote it. You know, did you know that Lawrence of Arabia?
Yeah, Lawrence sat down and actually put pen to paper. Yeah.
Yeah, he did. No, it was oh my gosh, Maurice Jarre. He, like, they've been using those sounds to always make the desert, you know, lamentation music, wailing.
That's what, you know, communicates like desert to people at a certain point, right? Because of that movie, Arabia,
right. and because they, not because you've seen it, but or anybody's seen it, it's because we keep using it. Aladdin uses it. The Mummy uses it.
It just becomes part of the language of filmmaking at a certain point,
right? And that's awesome. I love when that happens. And so I liked it. There's some really great stuff, but I get a little tired of, like, discordant electric Zimmer, and I'm like, by the end, I'm like, yeah, all right, it's good. I think it served the film really well and what it was supposed to do. But sometimes, like, do I want to go back and listen to the Dune soundtrack? Not particularly. Have I? Yes.
Oh, really? Okay.
But yeah, but halfway through, I'm like, all right, I'm done with this. Like, actually, like, I'm good. And that to me is not, like you said, it's personal taste on movie. Like, you were looking for more of this. That's just, I'm looking for a little bit something different in the score.
I honestly felt similarly about the score. So I'm glad to hear you say it and not me.
Yeah.
Plus one to what Tim said.
But I think it served its purpose on what it was supposed to do. But
Agreed.
We've been going for a long time, so I just got to ask you, rate on a 1 to 10 Oscar Isaac's beard.
Oh, 10. Like, oh man,
10.
So much beard.
What a beard.
Oh
yeah.
Like,
oh my gosh.
I've got a decent beard, but that man.
Yeah, that's a beard.
That's what a beard should look like.
Hope for anything close to that.
It's like the beard on a statue. You know, it's an idealized version of a beard. Yeah.
Oh, it was truly
magnificent.
Right. Well, Frank, that was I love when we don't agree. That was fun.
I disagree on that. I love no, I'm just kidding.
I do love when we agree, because I love being in harmony with you. But it is fun to have a conversation with different thoughts.
Yeah.
Frank, where can people find us with their thoughts?
Well, they can find us with their thoughts. They can send us their thoughts at beerwithgeeks@gmail.com or at beerwithgeeks on Twitter. They can find more about our thoughts at beerwithgeeks.com or wherever podcasts are found, like, just off the top of my head, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Pocket Casts, Castro, Radiotopia. I'm really digging deep now. Dogcatcher. I don't know, wherever you get your podcasts. You can find us in all those places. You can rate and review us there. You can support us with your hard-earned cash over at patreon.com/thoughtbubbleaudio. And you can see and hear all of our other shows here on the Thought Bubble Audio Network at thoughtbubbleaudio.com.
Well, Frank, what a lovely way to end this podcast. It's always a pleasure talking to you. So until next time, cheers.